statement of your source.
Yes, Your Honors, please.
There is truth to the fact that Justice Sereno intervened in the affairs of one division.
Yes,
That's why
Your
you wrote
Honors.
it.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you believe that personally, that's why you wrote it, you believe that there was a violation of the Chief Justice.
Yes, Your Honor.
You believe there was
Yes,
a
Your
violation.
Honor.
Otherwise, you would not have written
On
it.
the basis of my validation
Yes.
and searching inquiry, there
Yes.
was reported alleged irregularity committed by the Chief Justice,
Yes.
so I wrote about it.
Your statement, Mr. Canlas.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and honorable members of the House Committee on Justice. Mr. Chairman, I am appearing pursuant to the Honorable Committee's invitation in the matter of the verified complaint for impeachment against Supreme Court Chief Justice Maria Lourdes P.A. Sereno filed by Attorney Lorenzo G. Gadon and endorsed by 25 House members or impeachment case number 002-2017. I am Jomar Canlas, a senior reporter at the Manila Times. I have been a reporter for the Times newspaper for the past 13 years. I am assigned to cover government beats and write articles about the Department of Justice, Court of Appeals, Sandigan Bayan, Ombudsman, and the Supreme Court. I have written several articles on the Supreme Court, including Chief Justice Sereno. These include the following. Number 1, psychiatrist who testified Sereno fired, dated February 23, 2014. Number 2, Sereno on hot water over fake resolution, dated December 7, 2012. Number 3, Justice blasts Sereno over TRO mess, dated June 4, 2013. And number 4, Sereno collects once her staff named Justice, dated January 13, 2016. My article, Justice Blast over Sereno over TRO mess, was made part of the impeachment complaint of Attorney Gadon and now subject of the invitation I have received from this honorable committee to answer questions relative to the allegation that the Chief Justice falsified, tampered, or altered the TRO of the Supreme Court in the case of the Senior Citizens Party List case versus Comelec in GR number 206-844-285. At the outset, I hereby deny that I have intimated to Attorney Gadon that the source of facts in my article is Supreme Court Associate Justice Teresita J. Leonardo de Castro. I have never revealed to anyone my source or sources in the said article who, suffice it to say, are reliable and well-placed sources. As a matter of fact, for the past 25 years as a journalist and as a reporter for the Justice Beat for 2 decades, I have not revealed my sources to anyone. I also hereby categorically deny that Justice De Castro was my source in the news article entitled Justice Blast over Sereno over TRO mess. I would try my very best to answer further questions based on my personal knowledge pertaining to the articles I have written to aid this honorable committee in its disposition of impeachment case number 002-2017, subject to the protection and privilege accorded to me as a reporter under pertinent laws whenever applicable. As advised by my legal counsel, Republic Act 53, or the Soto Law, or also known as the Shield Law, as amended by Republic Act 1477, protects a publisher, editor, columnist, or duly accredited reporter of any newspaper, like myself, from compulsion to reveal the source of any news report or information appearing in said publication, which was related in confidence. This protection to reporters is likewise reiterated in the recently enacted law, RA 10173, or the Data Privacy Act. Thank you very much for this opportunity to shed light on the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Canlas. So now the floor is now open for clarificatory question on this matter. You raise your hand, Vice Chair Doy. You're now recognized.
Well, I think, Mr. Chair, thank you for the opportunity. And yes, again, good afternoon to each and everyone, our colleagues in Congress, and so with our guests. Well, actually, I was the one who asked for and requested for the subpoena ad testificandum upon Mr. Jomer Canlas, who is an alleged writer at Manila Times, because his name was dragged into this committee hearing during the time that we were asking Attorney Gadon regarding the source on the alleged ground of falsification, which is dubbed as one of the grounds for the impeachment of Chief Justice Sereno, which is a culpable violation of the Constitution, meaning there is a collegial body, and every now and then resolution or decision shall be reached only by the Supreme Court as a collegial body upon deliberation of all the members, whether it's in bank or by division. And in one of those cases, as alleged as one of those grounds, is the falsification of a temporary restraining order in connection with the Comelec case regarding party list case. Now, we have heard all of this, Mr. Chair, regarding the statement of Mr. Canlas that he denied now that the source was Justice De Castro. Now, I would like to go back now to the complainant, Attorney Gadon. What can you say as regards the, before I go again to Mr. Canlas, what is your, what can you say about the denial that he never, it was said that Mr. Canlas never intimated with you regarding the name of the source, regarding the alteration of the TRO resolution, that it was initially recommended that by Justice De Castro, and subsequently without consultation on the part of the Chief Justice with Justice De Castro and so with Justice Reyes, the Chief Justice unilaterally altered and tampered the resolution in contrary with the recommendation. Now, you said during the last meeting that on the alleged falsification, it was in fact, if I remember it right, it was said that it was written, I have here the Manila Times article, and you said during that time that it was Mr. Canlas. And that's why we were compelled. The second time around, we requested for the appearance of Justice De Castro of the Supreme Court. Now, Mr. Canlas is here, outwardly denying the statement that he intimated with you regarding the source. What can you say now, Mr. Gadon?
Your Honor, I cannot really remember now whether it was Jomar Canlas who intimated it to me, but I talked to him several times, and he may have intimated it to me, Your Honor. And, it doesn't change the fact, Your Honor, that there was an article about the TRO. And the existence of the incident of changing the contents of the TRO will be testified by Associate Justice Teresita De Castro herself, Your Honor. So I may have, Mr. Jomar Canlas may have intimated it to me or not, but I really cannot remember because there are a lot of people that are giving me information during those times. And considering that there are more than 300 or so documents involved in this case, Your Honor, I really cannot now recall, or I cannot really say that he did not disclose it to me, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, anyway, I'll just probably stick with this one question, but I would like again to remind the complainant and the rest of us that we're dealing with the impeachment of one of the highest, in fact, the highest official of the judiciary in the person of the Chief Justice. And during the time that we were voting for the sufficiency in form and substance, as we read the complaint, some others may disagree with us, but it was the rule of the majority that we found that there was sufficiency in substance in form. I would like to remind our dear complainant, Mr. Chair, the utmost responsibility of the complainant. We cannot rule and proceed. Well, of course, I must admit there are definitely about 27 actions that are being complained of, sufficient to form the violation as provided for under the Constitution. But, Mr. Chair, I would like to remind the complainant that we're dealing only with one on this, in this particular case of TRO. And if you cannot provide, there must be, as I said during the last hearing, you must be having some problems here. In order to evict, in order to oust, in order to remove, we must have sufficient ground. Now, there was, it was very clear, as will be reflected in the journal. I cannot help but tell you this one, that last time you said it was Joe Mercanlas. Now that there was denial on the part of the one you're quoting with, now you cannot, you're saying to this committee that you're forgetting everything. That cannot be done at the expense of the Justice Committee, at the expense of the impeachment proceeding, as provided for under the Constitution, and at the expense of removing the Chief Justice. Of course, we have to deal with so many cases here, and one by one, in fact, I would remind every member would be meticulous here, but I would like to remind you, Mr. Complainant, that you cannot just deal with stating someone, and if there's that someone will go back here and deny and block your statements, and you said, I cannot remember. That cannot be done. Well, instead of pursuing this line of questioning, Mr. Chair, I reserve my right to ask more other questions later on, more or less in relation to this or some other grounds. But, well, of course, with the indulgence of the Chair, I would like to remind Mr. Complainant that he cannot do this as we go along discussing all the 27 grounds by just refuting allegations which he cannot substantiate at this moment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just a small
Mr.
point.
Chairman,
So isa lang.
Very short. Very, very short.
May nakalista rito. Those who would like to ask clarificatory questions, please register your name to the ComSec. No? So, may
Just a point of
nakaregister
order,
na rito
Mr.
si
Chair.
Kong Fortun, Kong Crisologo, then Kong
If the chair, please, just a small point of
Garcia,
order.
and
Very
then
quickly.
we will recognize si Kong
Just a
Kit
point of
Belmonte.
order, Mr. Chair.
What is the point of
I
order?
noticed that Attorney Gadon is without counsel at this moment, Mr. Chair, and I think this is precisely the reason why they should have counsel. Kasi nag-iba-iba ho siya ng position eh. Baka he should have counsel beside him to remind him of his duties also, Mr. Chair.
Your Honor, it is understandable that...
You are not yet recognized.
okay,
no?
Your Honor.
But,
Sorry, Your Honor.
For the information of everyone, Larry Gadon is a lawyer, and so palagay ko yun din ay sasagot mo. Tama ba?
Yes, Your Honor.
Kanya, I'm sure he is well-versed on this as a practitioner. So, alam mo na yun, ano?
So, na-waive niya yung right niya to counsel or baka nga kailangan niya precisely ng counsel to remind him on that he is still under oath
No, Your
during his
Honor.
proceedings, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Yun lang
so
po.
hindi na daw niya kailangan.
So,
Anyway, this particular issue is a side issue, and we will deal with this on a different matter because ang importante po dito sa ating hearing is to be able to elicit facts that will clear the air in terms of the charges, no, and that is with respect to falsification, ano ba yan? Of the TRO. And meron tayong mga witnesses who will give their own personal account of how this thing happened. So, kanya lang, para lang dahil sinumpinan natin at merong issue nito, and in deference to the members who would like to clarify this matter as well, inimbitahan po natin si Mr. Canlas, and kung meron po kayong katanungan pa sa kanya, the floor is now open for that. So we now recognize Congressman Fortun.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I ask Jomar Canlas, I'd just like to make it to the record, Mr. Chairman, as raised by the Honorable Belmonte. May I ask categorically Attorney Gadon, because while he's a lawyer himself, Mr. Chairman, he's also entitled to counsel as complainant before the committee. For the record, are you waiving that right? Because it might be unfair that some might think that you have been denied of that right. It's good that for the record, you tell the committee whether or not you're waiving that right to counsel.
For the moment, Your Honor, since my lawyer is abroad, I'm waiving that right. I am also a lawyer. I can represent myself.
Thank you, Mr.
For
Chairman.
these proceedings, Your Honor.
Thank you. Just a couple or three for Mr. Canlas, Mr. Chairman. Number one, you deny the allegation earlier stated by Attorney Gadon in the last committee hearing that you were the source, no, of his information about this alleged falsification of a TRO in your statement earlier.
Yes, Your Honor, please.
And you also deny that Associate Justice De Castro was your source.
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you willing to divulge now to the committee who that source of yours really is?
With all due respect, and I humbly submit to the committee, Your Honors, please, I respectfully invoke RA 53 as amended by RA 1477, not to reveal my source.
Is that Republic Act absolute or are there exceptions?
There are exceptions, Your Honor, and it is only national security, as amended by RA 1477, as advised by counsel.
So you're not willing to divulge the names of your source right now?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, please.
Unless the committee is able to establish that this matter is of importance to national security.
I will not, I'm sorry, Your Honors, I cannot disclose my sources.
Just that, Your Honor, for Jomar Canlas.
We now recognize Congressman Quezologo.
Thank you very much, Sir Chairman. My question is addressed to Mr. Canlas. Of course, you have denied that you are the source and that of Attorney Gadon, and also you have denied that Justice De Castro was the source of your news report. So will you please inform the committee what was the news report all about concerning Justice De Castro? Can you read it to us so that we will know what we're talking about?
It's all about, Your Honors, the Justice Blas Sereno over TRO mess.
Okay, can you elaborate?
So
that we will know what was written.
Can I read the story, Your Honors?
Yes, please.
Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno failed to defend herself from a colleague's attacks over charges that she bungled the issuance of a temporary restraining order that halted the Commission elections from further proclaiming party list poll winners. During Tuesday's resumption of the High Court's en banc session, Sereno endured a harsh tongue lashing from Justice Teresita Leonardo de Castro, the original ponente of the tampered, open quote and close quote, tampered TRO, according to a court insider. De Castro at one point slammed Sereno for being tardy and not for coordinating her actions with her. Open quote, the problem with you reported late. You arrive at 3 p.m. kaya hindi mo naaktuhan ang recommendations ko. A highly reliable source quoting De Castro as telling the Chief Magistrate during the closed-door en banc deliberations. The scolding lasted for a while until the tribunal decided to defer the discussions for a day. Several justices had threatened to confront Sereno over the controversial TRO. On Tuesday, the Manila Times reported that Sereno admitted that she tinkered with De Castro's draft ruling. The other justices of the court disapprove of Sereno's unilateral action and have threatened to revoke the order. The Times got hold a copy of Sereno's letter to De Castro, where the Chief Justice admitted that she deliberately changed the recommendation made by the latter, who was the designated ponente of the TRO. During the confrontation, the source said, De Castro chastised the Chief Magistrate for issuing an erroneous resolution that was far from the former's recommendation and for not acting on it on time. Sereno did not counter De Castro's tirades and bowed down while being chastised, the source said. De Castro was incensed when Sereno on her own changed the content of the ponencia on the case of the senior citizen party list that was previously disqualified by the Commission on Elections for illegally adopting a term-sharing scheme among the two separate sets of officers. Instead of granting the relief being sought by the party list group, Sereno issued a blanket TRO stopping the COMELEC from making further proclamations, thus benefiting other groups that were not party to the case. De Castro noted that for being late for work on May 28, Sereno issued the TRO without consulting De Castro. Open quote, "Why did you not consult me? I'm in my office the whole day, and why did you consult Justice Bienvenido Reyes and not me?" De Castro asked Sereno. The Times was informed that De Castro finished her draft recommendation Monday last week, but Sereno was already out of her office. De Castro submitted the draft recommendation early Tuesday morning, May 28, but it was acted upon because Sereno arrived late in the afternoon. It was only May 29 when Sereno released the resolution without giving copies to other justices. The order also deviated from the De Castro draft. Sereno admitted that she arrived late but countered that the rollo or the documents were scanned and were sent to her by her staff. De Castro also criticized Sereno for issuing an erroneous resolution. She said what was involved in the case was the relief being sought by senior citizen party list. What is involved, open quote, what is involved, yun lang ang dapat pag-usapan. Your resolution is ultra vires, invalid and beyond powers. Close quote, she said. Sereno admitted that she changed the De Castro draft because what was in her mind back then was to issue a preventive measure for the remaining 5 party list seats. The Court and Bank decided to continue with the deliberations this morning. It called for a special en banc session at 9 a.m. The en banc also asked De Castro and Reyes to submit their respective draft resolutions for the body's final disposition. The justices will decide whether or not they will revoke the TRO of Sereno and adopt the recommendation that the tribunal issue a status quo ante order instead. A SQAO is to preserve the rights of the petitioner while a TRO seeks to prevent the COMELEC from acting, the source said.
It seems, Mr. Canlas, that it is a very long report. Are all of those things that you wrote, they were all from the source, or there are some which came from you?
These are all coming from the source, Your Honors, please.
Everything?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
Including the justices will decide whether they will revoke or whether they will revoke the order of Justice Sereno or not. Those came also from the source?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
So nothing in your report comes from your personal knowledge?
It was intimated to me by my source, Your Honors, please.
Yes, that's why. I mean, say, all of your report, because it's really very detailed, no? All of those things that are in your report, there is none, it does not come from your own personal knowledge. Not a single statement there in your report.
It all came from my source, Your Honors, please.
That's why my question is different. My question is, nothing, not a single statement came from your own. All of those came from your source. Walang isa, kahit na isang linya lang doon na galing sa'yo.
None, Your Honors, please.
Lahat galing sa source mo.
Yes, Your Honors, please.
As a reporter, of course, you will not write something which you do not believe that there is no truth to the matter.
Yes, Your Honors.
Is that your...
Yes, Your Honors, please.
Of course, kunyari, paninira lang, sinabi nila, pangit si ganito, hindi mo naman isusulat yung kung hindi totoo.
I have to validate things as my training as a
Kaya nga,
journalist, Your
yes,
Honors.
yes. And when you validate it and you believe it's true, then you will write it.
Yes,
But if you validate it and you do not believe that it's true, you will not write it.
I will make a searching inquiry, Your Honors.
That's why,
please.
if you, in your searching inquiry, if you see that it is not true, you will not write it.
Yes, Your Honors, please.
So the fact that you wrote it means to say that you believe that there is truth to the statement of your source.
Yes, Your Honors, please.
There is truth to the fact that Justice Sereno intervened in the affairs of one division.
Yes,
That's why
Your
you wrote
Honors.
it.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you believe that personally, that's why you wrote it, you believe that there was a violation of the Chief Justice.
Yes, Your Honor.
You believe there was
Yes,
a
Your
violation.
Honor.
Otherwise, you would not have written it.
On the basis of my validation
Yes.
and searching inquiry, there
Yes.
was reported alleged irregularity committed by the Chief Justice,
Yes.
so I wrote about it.
And you will not write about it if you do not believe that there is no truth to that irregularity.
Yes, Your Honors, please.
So you believe, let me put it the other way, in a positive way. So you believe that there was irregularity, and that's the reason why you believe it, or why you wrote it. Otherwise, you will not write it down.
I will write a story on the basis of the facts
Yeah, no.
and
Yes, I know. That's what I'm trying to verify. I'm saying that the mere fact that you wrote about the irregularity after due investigation from your sources, you would not have written it if you did not believe that there was truth to the fact that Justice Sereno committed an irregularity.
Yes, Your Honors, please.
So you believe
I
that
believe,
there was
Your
an
Honors,
irregularity.
that there was such an incident that transpired, so I have to report it.
Not an incident, an irregularity.
It's an incident, Your Honor, so
Yes,
it's
an
not for me to
incident-
judge
an
if there's an
incident
irregularity
where-
or not.
An incident where an irregularity, because he's not responding to my question. There's an incident where an irregularity occurred.
If there's an irregularity, I have to verify it, Your Honors, and it's not for me to say if that's irregular or not.
But
But I
I-
have to report it on the basis of the facts that was
But
presented.
let me repeat it again. If you do not believe in the things that are the Justice Guarantee is accused of, you would not have written it.
I believe in my story, Your Honors.
You
please.
believe in your story.
Yes.
So you believe that that was an irregularity committed.
I believe, Your Honors, please.
That's all, Mr. Chairman. And my last question will be addressed to Attorney Gadon. Attorney Gadon, there is you under oath you stated that you heard that your source is from Mr. Canlas, and now you are denying it. Let me remind you that you're under oath here, and you will be subject later on if it as now the score against you is 1-0. Because Mr. Canlas denied what you have alleged. So there is already a violation in your oath.
Your Honor, if I recall it right, it was really Mr. Jomar Canlas who intimated to me or who
Yes,
told me.
but he's denying it.
Well, that's understandable, Your Honor, because he is citing Republic Act 53 or the Soto Law. And of course, I cannot force him to admit it.
No. Well, you stated on our first hearing that Mr. Canlas heard it from the from Justice De Castro herself. Now, Mr. Canlas is denying that he ever said that to you.
Well, that was the information that I gathered, Your Honor, from him at the time that we
You
were
gathered
discussing.
from him?
Yes, Your Honor.
But he's denying it. He said that he never told you that she talked directly
Yes,
to Justice De Castro.
Yes, because, Your Honor, he is invoking the ethics being practiced by journalists, Your Honor.
That is
they are
your-
hiding under Republic Act 53, Your Honor.
That is your opinion.
Yes, Your Honor.
That is your opinion. But,
But, Your
because
Honor-
your statement, no, it's not his sources. The statement, your statement here on your first day was that you said it was Mr. Canlas who stated to you that Justice De Castro told him that there was a problem. Now here is Mr. Canlas now. He's really denying that he had any conversation with you concerning that matter. But let me again clarify. Mr. Canlas, did you have any conversation with Attorney Gadon concerning this matter?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
You had a conversation?
Yes, I believe sometime, with the best of my memory, sometime in March, before this impeachment has transpired, he wanted to validate my story, and I just narrated to him the story I have written,
Yes.
on the basis of my story alone. But I have never disclosed to him any of my source or sources. But I think he might be mixed up with our conversation that as if Justice De Castro
Your Honor,
is my
your
source.
time is up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So, just last thing, just a short. So, Attorney Gadon, you better be careful. You are under oath.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, sir.
Next is Deputy Speaker Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lest we get lost in this maze of he said, may I first direct my question to Attorney Gadon. In your impeachment complaint, you listed under 4.2, under culpable violation of the Constitution, 4.2 states that she falsified the temporary restraining order of the Supreme Court in GR numbers 206844-45 and submitted as part of your evidence the newspaper report published in the Manila Times dated June 4, 2013, entitled Justice Blasts Sereno Over TRO Mess. Is that right, Attorney Gadon?
Yes, Your Honor.
And this newspaper report published in the Manila Times was written by Mr.
Jomar Canlas, Your Honor.
Canlas, who is present.
Yes, Your Honor.
In other words, your complaint specifically centers on an alleged culpable violation of the Constitution when a TRO was allegedly falsified by the Chief Justice based on a report that was written in the Manila Times by Mr. Jomar Canlas.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Jomar Canlas, you are here. Do you stand by each and every word that you have written in this particular article referred to, entitled Justice Blasts Sereno Over TRO Mess?
Yes, Your Honor, I stand by my story.
So that even if you cannot and you refuse to reveal your source, you stand by the fact that, and I shall quote directly, paragraph 2, Sereno endured a harsh tongue lashing from Justice Teresita Leonardo de Castro, the original ponente of the tampered TRO, according to the court insider. Do you stand by this?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
Now, you stated further, paragraph 3, De Castro at one point slammed Sereno for being tardy and for not coordinating her actions with her. You stand by this?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
Let me continue. Open quote, the problem with you was you reported late, you arrived at 3 p.m., kaya hindi mo naaktuhan ang recommendation ko. A highly reliable source quoted De Castro as telling the Chief Magistrate during the closed-door and bank deliberations. Do you stand by this?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
Eto pa. On Tuesday, and this is in the ensuing paragraphs, the Manila Times reported that Sereno admitted that she tinkered with De Castro's draft ruling. Do you stand by this?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
The next paragraph states, the other justices of the court disapprove of Sereno's unilateral action. Quote,
Yes, Your Honors, please.
and have threatened to revoke the order. Do you stand by this?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
Further, the Times got hold of a copy of Sereno's letter to De Castro where the Chief Justice admitted that she deliberately, your words, she deliberately changed the recommendation made by the latter, who was the designated ponente of the TRO. Do you stand by this?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
And in light of this particular paragraph, Mr. Chairman, may I request that a subpoena be issued to this copy of Sereno's letter, which the Manila Times has gotten hold of, where the Chief Justice purportedly admitted that she deliberately changed the recommendation made by Justice De Castro, who was the designated ponente.
According to the committee secretary, there's already a letter addressed to the clerk of court requesting for a copy.
Thank you. I shall go further. You again wrote, De Castro was incensed when Sereno on her own changed the content of the ponencia on the case of the senior citizen party list that was previously disqualified by the Commission on Elections for illegally adopting a term sharing scheme among two separate sets of officers. Do you stand by this?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
Further, instead of granting the relief being sought by the party list group, Sereno issued a blanket TRO, stopping the COMELEC from making further proclamations, thus benefiting other groups that were not party to the case. Do you stand by this?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
I shall continue. And this is open quote. Why did you not consult me? I am in my office the whole day. Why did you consult Justice Reyes? De Castro asked Sereno. This is a particular quote attributed to Associate Justice De Castro. The words are very specific, that she was not consulted, and instead, Chief Justice Sereno consulted Justice Reyes. Do you stand by this quote?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
May I continue? The Times was informed that De Castro finished her draft recommendation Monday last week, but Sereno was already out of her office. De Castro submitted the draft recommendation early Tuesday. It was not acted upon because Sereno arrived late in the afternoon. It was only May 29th when Sereno released the resolution without giving copies to the other justices. The order also deviated from the De Castro draft. Do you stand by this, that this May 29 resolution signed by Justice Sereno was not distributed, nor copies of such resolution were not distributed to other justices, and such order deviated from the De Castro draft?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
And so that, in summary, and in relation to the particular offense, alleged offense, which is culpable violation of the Constitution, alleged by Attorney Gadon, specifically referring to a temporary restraining order issued by the Chief Justice, which deviated and in fact did not conform with the draft resolution that had already been written by Justice De Castro. As far as this particular complaint and allegation is concerned, do you stand by your story that, in fact, there was such a confrontation that had happened between Justice De Castro and Chief Justice Sereno?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
Do you stand by your statement in this particular news story that in fact Justice De Castro had claimed that the resolution that Chief Justice Sereno eventually released deviated from the original which merely focused on the senior citizens.
Yes, Your Honors, please.
And that other groups, eto nga, may I just quote, and this is again in your news report, open quote, "What is involved, yun lang ang dapat pag-usapan. Your resolution is ultra vires." This is a statement attributed to Justice De Castro. This is a direct quote that you have put in your report. Do you stand by this statement?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
Therefore, it matters no longer who the source is, but the reporter himself who wrote this report stands by the veracity of your report, as you had earlier stated that you also countercheck, that you do not merely accept inputs, you also see to it by your counterchecking of facts, whether or not such facts are adhere to the truth.
Yes, Your Honors, please. I stand by my story that such incident has transpired.
You stand by your story that the TRO issued by Justice Sereno deviated from and was not, in fact, the original intent from the ponente, who was Justice De Castro.
Yes, Your Honors, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next is the Honorable Gonzaga.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Canlas, please. You denied being the source or being revealed your source to Mr. Gadon. Pero will you admit that for several times you met with Mr. Gadon and have conversation with regard to the psychiatrist issue, the fake resolution, the TRO issue? Do you admit that, Mr. Canlas?
Yes, we met, Your Honor.
So you are telling this committee that you and Mr. Gadon personally knew each other?
No, Your Honors, please.
How many times do you have conversation with Mr. Gadon regarding the psychia issue, fake resolution, and the Justice Blast Chief Justice?
It was sometime in March, Your Honors, please, and that's the first time I met him. And the last time I met him again.
Do you confirm that you have discussed these matters with Mr. Gadon?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
Do you confirm that you have revealed information about the truthfulness or your belief about these issues?
Yes, Your Honors, please, on the basis of my story on what I have written.
So the only thing you did not discuss with Mr. Gadon is the source of your information?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
Thank you.
Next is the Honorable Lawanginan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Now, it's very clear that what was denied by the witness, Mr. Canlas, was only the source, that it was not Justice De Castro. And the witness had categorically affirmed, which is supposed to be my first question to him, on the, he still affirmed on the validity and accuracy of his news report. Now, after affirming that, my question to you, Mr. Campos, is that how accurate is your source?
My source, Your Honors, please, is very accurate. I do not rely alone on one source. I try to dig deeper, and I'll try to get one step ahead of my story by getting sources from from other sources.
Okay.
Primary, secondary, and third and fourth hand sources, Your Honors, please.
And in all your sources, how sure are you on their integrity in relation to the accuracy of that information that you have written in your reports?
I am very sure, Your Honors, please.
That's all, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
I would just like to clarify the manifestation of Honorable Garcia with regard to the letter when the Chief Justice admitted, according to the report of Mr. Canlas, that the Chief Justice admitted that she deliberately changed the recommendations made by the latter, who was designated ponente of the TRO. I would just like to know, Mr. Chair, if the subpoena was directed to the clerk of court or was directed to Manila Times.
Per the committee secretary, it was directed to the clerk of court and bank.
Mr. Chair, the report of Mr. Canlas stated, and I quote, "The Times got hold of the copy of Sereno's letter to De Castro where the chief..." No, your subpoena was directed to the clerk of court. Now, I would like, the subpoena issued by the committee was directed to the clerk of court. I would like to amend that the subpoena also be directed to the Manila Times, who got hold of the letter.
That was the intent of my motion, actually.
Okay.
Because I had quoted directly this particular paragraph,
But
which claims that the Manila Times got hold of that
Yes.
copy. And that was the intent of my motion.
But
that we subpoena the copy from the Manila Times.
But the
Wait a
presiding
minute.
chair...
Wait a minute. Attorney Gadon is not Jomar Canlas. Jomar Canlas is not Manila Times. So, the subpoena was... what is the point of Deputy Speaker?
Mr. Chair, when Honorable Garcia asked you whether there is subpoena with regard to the production of the letter where the Chief Justice admitted the alteration, you mentioned that there was the subpoena, but it was directed to the clerk of court. Our intention is, instead of directing the clerk of court to produce the letter mentioned by the report of Mr. Canlas, we instead amend, or there would be an additional subpoena be directed to the Manila Times because they got hold of that letter. So I move, Mr. Chair, that another subpoena ad testificandum, duces tecum, be produced or be issued by the committee directing the Manila Times to produce the letter as mentioned by the Honorable Garcia and this representation.
And you are referring to the letter of... copy of the letter...
Admitted.
Okay, Mr. Canlas.
Mr. Chairman, yeah.
If the chair grants that motion, would Manila Times be in a position to release a copy of that letter?
I'm sorry, Your Honors, please. That letter, I did not turn over that letter with the Manila Times.
Mr. Chair,
So you have a copy of the letter?
I have it before, Your Honors, please, but it's 2013. It's June 4, 2013, and I cannot find it in my files anymore, Your Honors, please. But that copy can be procured from the Supreme Court and bank itself, Your Honors,
Not
please.
an official copy, Mr. Chairman.
It's a copy.
It's an official letter.
Yes, copy
So
furnished.
there is a
The
copy.
justices of the Supreme Court are copy furnished with that letter, Your Honors, please.
And that is why the subpoena issued by the committee secretariat addressed to the clerk of court and bank would suffice.
Mr. Chair, a short interjection. If ever the Supreme Court would be giving us that copy, because there's already a subpoena issued duces tecum, and it will be provided to before this committee. Mr. Canlas, can you rightfully identify the document?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
Okay. I think that will suffice, Mr.
And
Chair.
perhaps, yes, for that, Mr. Chairman,
Wait a minute.
no, with
Hold
regards
your
to that,
horse.
with regards to that,
Congressman Gonzaga.
Mr. Canlas, nakita mo yung letter, di ba?
Opo.
Will you confirm to this committee that the content of the letter is the admission of the Chief Justice that she deliberately changed the recommendation made by Justice De Castro?
Yes, Your Honors, please.
Yes, that would be the right
Would that
position.
be all? So there is no need for any other subpoena because there has already been one sent to the clerk of court of the Supreme Court in bank.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to that, since it is stated that Sereno's letter was written to De Castro and the other justices, we have many sources where we could get that copy of it. Even Justice De Castro, if he comes here, would be able to produce that letter.
So,
Can we now proceed, Mr. Chair, because we have order of interpreters?
okay, it is now my turn.
Okay.
Mr. Carlas, before this, before my series of questions, let me come up with a prefatory explanation. What we are into is gathering pieces of evidence that would substantiate the allegations of Attorney Gadon in his complaint. And these allegations were endorsed by 25 members of the House. Okay? Now, we have no problem with Gadon. Gadon was only a trigger to this impeachment proceeding. Let me go to your June 4, 2013 item. The reason why I said Attorney Gadon is merely a trigger in this impeachment proceeding is that actually this news item you have dated June 4, 2013 constitutes an independent relevant evidence. That's why please be careful in answering my questions because we will be relying, at least I, as a member of the committee, will be relying heavily on this as an independent, relevant evidence. First, you answered a lot of questions of Deputy Speaker Garcia. They were properly phrased, and your answers were forthright. Tell the committee how many draft TROs are involved in this senior citizens case.
Your Honors, please, there was the TRO, recommended TRO by Justice De Castro and the TRO of Chief Justice Sereno, which came out later on.
On record, pages 78 to 79 is a temporary restraining order covering no longer GR numbers 206844-45, the docket number of the petition of Coalition of Associations of Senior Citizens in the Philippines, Inc., Senior Citizens Party List, represented by Francisco Datol, Jr. versus Comelec. It also covers Coalition of Associations of Senior Citizens in the Philippines, Inc., represented by Attorney Godofredo V. Arquiza versus Comelec, docketed as GR number 206982. Are you familiar with this TRO?
Yes, Your Honors, please. As far as I can remember, that cases were consolidated.
Consolidated after the complained TRO, where Justice De Castro made your narrated statements,
Your Honors,
scolding
please.
in particular.
Your Honors, please, there are two ponentes in the case because there are two cases pending in the Supreme Court. And one, the first case is the case with Justice De Castro. And under the internal rules of the Supreme Court, the lower docket number, the other cases shall follow. So it is Justice De Castro who has authority over that case. But the problem with that period, Your Honors, please, the Supreme Court is not in session at that time. They are in recess.
When you say Supreme Court was in recess, please explain. Were they in Baguio session or what?
They are, as far as I remember, I think they are in decision writing period, Your Honors, please.
So, they were on decision writing period.
As far as I remember, Your Honors, please.
Because the internal rules of the Supreme Court reads, Section 6, paragraph G, when the court is in recess and the urgency of the case requires immediate action, the clerk of court or the division clerk of court shall personally transmit the rollo to the Chief Justice or the division chairperson for his or her action. It would appear, per your explanation, Mr. Canlas, that this was not initially an en banc case.
It is an en banc case, Your Honors, please.
Okay. With two separate petitioners.
Yes, Your Honors, please.
And with two separate dockets.
Yes, Your Honors, please.
Except that according to you, the Supreme Court was in recess for decision making.
Yes, Your Honors, please.
Okay. The one we have on record attached to the verified complaint as pages 78 to 79 is already an en banc temporary restraining order on a consolidated case. So, since you appear to be knowledgeable on what happened in this particular case, kindly explain to the committee, if you know, how this temporary restraining order, now appearing as TRO pages 78 to 79, came about. Because you were telling the committee that apart from this TRO, there is another draft TRO.
As far as I know, Your Honors, please, this is the TRO issued by the Chief Justice Sereno, which is under question.
So this is the TRO under question. What eventually was the TRO that was not in question?
The ponente of the case is Justice Teresita De Castro. So she made a recommendation to the to the court that she will issue a TRO in favor of the petitioners, senior party list. But later on, it was changed radically by the Chief Justice, revising and changing the very draft resolution of Justice De Castro.
Which is not allowed under the internal rules of the Supreme Court.
I'm not aware of that, Your Honors, please.
Okay, may I know from the committee secretary if subpoena has already been issued against the clerk of court, Supreme Court and Bank regarding this temporary restraining order appearing on pages 78 to 79 of the record. Is there already? Letter request. So this is included in the letter request. Okay, you mentioned that everything you said in your article, June 4, 2013, Manila Times, all of the information there, pieces of information were validated. And when you say validated, by whom?
It is validated by my sources, Your Honors, please.
And when you speak of sources, sources could only be the justices of the Supreme Court.
Not necessarily, Your Honors, please. I have so many sources from the judiciary. I'm covering for the past 2 decades in the Supreme Court, so I have many sources, well-placed sources inside the Supreme Court, Your Honors, please.
But it could also be a justice of the Supreme Court.
Yes, Your Honors, please.
It could also be Justice De Castro.
Yes, Your Honors, please. But in this case, she's not my source, Your Honors, please.
The clerk of court of the Supreme Court, who actually is present in the deliberation of cases that are deliberated upon in bank.
The clerk of court is not present during the deliberations. It's an executive session, Your Honors, please.
So who actually could qualify as sources, credible sources? Apart from the 15 justices of the Supreme Court, the stenographer.
There are many sources, Your Honors, please. There are lawyers, court insiders, court employees. I have different sources, Your Honors.
But anyway, you are categorically stating that the temporary restraining order marked as pages 78 to 79 of the record, this is not the TRO issued by Justice De Castro.
As far as I can remember, Your Honor, this is not the recommendation of Justice De Castro.
And again, you attest to the veracity